All right, so Luke 15. Let's pick it up. Let's go with verse 20. Let's start in verse 20. Kind of get the context. So he, the son, the younger son, the guy who's totally messed up, hit rock bottom, is a mess in a pigsty, and just taking care of the pigs. He's just awesome. He's awful. So he got up and he went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. At this point, the people who were hearing this were just losing their minds. This guy was doing everything completely wrong according to first century etiquette. Here's where we are today. The son said to him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. He had more, but the father wouldn't let him get it out. As we've read earlier, he had more that he was going to say, but the father was so overcome by the fact that his son had returned. Man, he went into overdrive. And look at what he did here for his son, who shamed him, just hit rock bottom, all the wrong things. Verse 22, but the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Look at the first thing that the father does. After he gathers himself, after he's hugged his kid, he's tackled him before he got anywhere near the house. He covered him with kisses and with tears. Then he says, first, bring the robe. Bring the robe. This is a robe of honor, okay? This is a robe of honor that the father would have had. You got to understand, again, as we've been walking through this story, man, this kid did absolutely nothing to deserve any honor, all right? And yet, here's the father giving him his robe. It's his robe of honor. And notice he wasn't doing it in secret, right? He didn't say, hey, let's come to the house, let's go in the room where nobody else is seeing us, and then I'll give you my robe of honor. He was doing it right out in public. Why? Because he wanted everybody to see in the community, his servants, everyone to see the statement that he was making. Because clothes in the first century often spoke of status and position. And so what the father was doing, he took his robe of honor and he put it over his son. And he says, in essence, I am covering my son's brokenness. I am covering all my son has done, and everything in the past is now forgiven and gone. My son is covered. His shame is covered with my honor. He is fully accepted and fully loved, and I want everybody to see it and everybody to know it, so that when they look at my son, they will not see his shame. They will not see his brokenness. They will not see his disgust. They will see my honor. That is what the Father is saying here. Do you get what Jesus is telling us about God, what he wants to do for us? We're going to dig into that a little bit more. Robe was just the beginning. It says he put a ring on his finger. Most likely that was a signet ring. Signet ring, what it signified was reinstatement in the family business. Now remember, this is the kid who took his inheritance, blew it all, and now the father says, I'm going to reinstate you into the family business, into a position of honor, which meant, because he had the ring, he was the rightful legal representative of the family and of the family business, which means he could carry on business for the family in the family's name. It was a responsibility and a privilege. Third, sandals. The father was missing no detail. See, in that first century, slaves, they went bare feet. It actually was illegal for them to wear sandals. He is putting on sandals, signifying that he has been reinstated sonship. He has been given sonship again. He's a part of the family. A robe, a ring, sandals, and then a feast. He said, let's kill the fattened calf. Think about that for a moment, all right? Calves don't get fat immediately. You can't just go over and microwave them. Poof, they're fat. Let's go. Let's kill them. Let's sacrifice them. Can't do that, right? So what does that tell us? That tells us this calf was picked by the father, previously set aside and fed for this moment. Why? Because the father, his heart was already preparing to let the son know, I wanted you home. I wanted you home. When you just look at that, it's unbelievable. I love what one theologian said, Douglas Wilson. He says this, after he, the son, spent all his inheritance on partying, who really thinks the prodigal son needed to go to another party? Well, Jesus, apparently. Right? And it was a party that was filled and marked by true joy, true laughter, true love, something he could never get in the far country. Why? Because it wasn't there. It wasn't there. All that he was looking for, right in the Father's house. All that he was truly looking for, right with the Father. When you step back and you just stare at this whole picture, everything that we have been looking at building up to this point and up to this moment, Jesus has been painting a picture of something that is spectacular. I mean, the Father is absolutely ridiculous in his generosity. There's a word for that in the New Testament, grace. The word is grace. That is the jaw-dropping, heart-pounding truth that we all desire. It's God's goodness lavished on us. N.T. Wright, the theologian, says this: the kingdom that Jesus preached and lived was all about a glorious, uproarious, absurd generosity. Now remember who Jesus is telling this story to. He is telling it to a crowd, yes, but remember who was in that crowd. The Pharisees were in that crowd. We find that out in the first part of this chapter. The Pharisees were there, and this was having them melt down. They had to be just absolutely losing their minds over this, because this was in opposition to everything that they believed. The Pharisees believed that you could merit your way into a relationship with God. That is the picture of man-made religion, all right? That somehow by my good works, by my effort, I can leverage my good works and my choices into things that I do that are good. I can leverage that to get God to accept me, to get him to take me, and I can do all this stuff so that God will be obligated to approve of me and give me his favor, right? That's called self-salvation, all right? In fact, all man-made religions, all of the religions, except for Christianity, you can boil them down to two words: do this. Two words: do this. They try to do all these things so that you jump through these hoops, believe this, do all these things that you have to, in order to get you somehow to connect with God. Jesus was going to extreme lengths to show us that that is not how it works in the Father's kingdom.